All right, everyone, here's a quick overview of the homebrew system here. As you can tell, it's three 15.5-gallon kegs with the tops cut off to use as giant kettles. They have valves in them. So this is a gravity feed system. So in the top, you have the hot water ton. So we're trying to get this water up to 172, 175. So then the hot water can go through into the mash tun. We're gonna put the grains into there, add water, let that sit for about an hour at a very specific temperature. Once that's done, we'll have hot water back in here again, and we'll start the sparging process where you have hot water that comes through the mash tun and it rinses all the sugary substances off of the mash into the boil kettle. So as you can see, these have these false bottoms that allow it to filter a little bit better. But then you'll boil here for about an hour, add your hops, and then we have pumps that we use. This is a counterflow chiller. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But in the meantime, while we're waiting, we have sanitized our 6.5-gallon carboys, which the beer will go to. And we're just waiting for the water to heat up, and we'll get started here in a second. All right, so today we are making a Sutler's Breakfast Stout. This comes from Great Fermentations. It's a home brew store located in Indianapolis, Indiana. This is big, rich, delicious, perfect big stout for winter or really anytime. Coffee, dark chocolate, add some complexity to the beer with flavors contributed by specialty grains. The coffee gets you going, the beer's just not for breakfast. So we're shooting for 6.4 to 8.4 percentage. This is a 5-gallon recipe. We're going to double it to make 10 gallons. We have a mash temperature around 152, 154. Here's some of the recipe here. We have 2-row flaked oats, chocolate malt, crystal malt, coffee malt, debittered black malt, and roasted barley. The hops we're adding here, we have Magnum hops, Williamette. We have Irish moss, some more Williamette hops. We're going to add coffee, but we're actually going to add that after the brew process, and Belgian cocoa. It's going to be good. So next step is we have our water up to temperature, about 172. We're going to fill this mash tun up about halfway, and then we're going to start to mash in. Is where you take all the grains and malts here and then put them in here and start to mix it to get to your right temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and start to fill the water up here. I'm just going to check the temperature here. I'm searching for 152 to 154, I think. I'm at 152, 154, so pretty close. Give it one last stir here. Smells delicious. Put the lid on. I usually grab a towel. Try to keep some of the temperature in. The goal here is really not to lose that much temperature. You kind of want to keep it right at your target temperature. 152, 154 area. 153, we are perfect. So we're gonna set a timer for about an hour. We're gonna fill that back up with some hot water so that we can run the hot water through the grains in about an hour into the boil kettle. so the mash is done. It's been mashing for just about an hour now. So now it's time to drain the mash into the boil kettle. Let's take a look here. Woo-wee! Smells delicious. Smells like breakfast. Turn this on, we should start flowing a little bit. What we want to do is go very slow here. We want to match water coming in to the mash tun, rinsing the grain bed as it flows into the boil kettle. We want to do that very slow for about 30-45 minutes. And you kind of like try to move the water around here, try to get different parts of the grain bed here. But I found once you get about an inch of water up top of the grain bed here, it kind of seems to flow itself, and you can kind of leave it alone. It's kind of a little bit automated process here, so you can once you get it back going to the right flow rate, get everything adjusted, sit back, relax, drink a homebrew, you know. All right, so I'll get that flowing, and it'll be about 30-45 minutes, and we'll check it back in. You know, I've been brewing before, and the family walks in, you know, and you're brewing, and they're like, oh my gosh, what is that smell? They're smelling the mash, they're smelling the hops. You know, they're like, oh, it's so gross. But, you know, anyone who brews thinks that smell is just so delicious. You know, I don't know why someone hasn't come and just made that brew day into a candle. You know, I would buy a bunch of brew day candles. And while we're waiting for the hot water to sparge through the mash tun of the boil kettle, quick story here. So I've had this set up for about 10 years now. I didn't make it. You know, I went online on the Craigslist back in the day, typed in 3-tier brew system, popped right up, $100. Messaged the guy, said, hey, can I come pick this up? Drove there after work, and he said, hey man, you're lucky you picked this up, because I had about 30-40 people immediately after you saying they wanted it. So pretty cool history on this. He was a welder. He made it all himself, welded all these parts together, put the different burners in, has the propane. I don't use the middle burner, but quite a nice system. I asked him how many times he brewed on it. He said he brewed probably, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 different times on it, and I brewed about 20 times on it, so pretty cool. I don't know if you can see that, but it looks like we have about 1 or 2 gallons in there, so we're still waiting, so why not continue story time? So these kegs right here, these came back in college when the deposit was only $10 or $15. You go get a keg. They said, hey, give me $10, $15 to make sure that you bring this keg back. So I happened not to bring it back, so I got 3 really nice kegs. But then, you know, they had the top on them. So what I did was I just kind of drew around the edge, kind of where I wanted to be cut out. Knew I couldn't do that, so reached out to a buddy. He had a plasma cutter, so you'd quickly go in and cut the edge around here. But after you do the plasma cutting, it's very, very rough, like it cuts your hand. So it took me a little while to grind this down, but was able to do that. So each keg here kind of has those cut open parts of it. And then I'm no welder either, so just ordered these fittings, was able to drill through, use some waterproof fittings there to kind of build that. So this is kind of cool. So this is 3 gallons, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 gallons. So you kind of know how much water in there. This is the mash tun is very important to be insulated. So this is just, you know, standard insulation that you can get. And it's probably wrapped around, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 different feet. And then use this tape to insulate that. So there it is. Been a good system so far. Looking good. About 7-8 gallons in. So when I went to the homebrew store, I told them I wanted a little bit more alcohol in the stout. So what they recommended was some DME. It's called dry malt extract. So it's really, you know, what you're getting from the grains there and there, but it has been dried. So we're gonna go ahead and put that into the boil. Don't want a lot of clumping, so as we put this in, we're gonna try to stir it here a little bit. It's always my favorite part of brewing. When you get to the boil here and you get to start to smell the aromas. Should just be a couple more minutes till we get to shut off the water up top, running through the mash tun into the boil kettle here. Hope you like this GoPro footage here. I'm doing my best. It's clipped onto my black and white flannel shirt here. It's a kind of a chilly, rainy day in Monrovia in December. It's about mid-40s, but you know, I don't mind it. I prefer that over the time I brewed in the summer and it was 90 and it was just miserable. Also brewed in the middle of winter when it was close to 10, 12 degrees out and everything was freezing and it was horrible, but you do what you can do, right? As you can see here, we're pretty high up there, maybe a little higher than we should be. I don't have an exact science to how much water runs through. I don't do it that way. Some brewers do. I just kind of play it by ear. So give it an extra stir just for the sake of it. Doesn't hurt anything. It makes you feel like you're doing something though. Just looking at the recipe here, so when it comes to boil, what I want to do here is take a look at 60-minute boil. I don't know if you can see that, but at 60-minute boil, that means counting down. So 60 minutes, 30 minutes, 15, 5, 1, 0. So at 60, that's the first thing we want to do is 1 ounce of Magnum hops. So you can see here, 1 ounce Magnum hops added. Then at 30 minutes to the end of the boil, so just about halfway, Wilmette. So I'm going to add that. Irish moss here, optional, added 20 minutes at the end of the boil. I'm not going to do that. What Irish moss is just something that helps clarify the beer. So when you're making a breakfast stout, I don't think you really need that. At the end of the boil here, it says Wilmette hops. So I'm going to add another one here right at the end. And then coffee added at the end of the boil. We talked about this a little earlier. I'm going to save the coffee to do that later. But what I've never done before here is interesting, is Belgian cocoa added at the end of the boil. So that should be fun. It's been about 2 weeks. We are going to transfer. This is the primary carboys, 6.5 gallons. We're going to transfer into these 5-gallon carboys down here. They're currently full of sanitizer, a bucket full of sanitizer as well. Before we transfer, we want to take one more specific gravity reading here. We're going to get the alcohol level by taking the original gravity and the final gravity, doing some math and getting that ABV calculation. We have emptied the carboys of sanitizer. There's a couple bubbles in there, but that doesn't hurt anything. We strained the coffee into these cups. This was the coffee that was cold steeped for about 24 hours. So we're gonna add that. So we have our coffee in there now. We're gonna take this siphon right here and siphon the beer from here to here. And does it smell delicious? You can smell like chocolate, cocoa, you can smell that cold brew, coffee. It's gonna be tasty. So we have the first carboy empty and transferred in. A little over full, but that's okay. We can take a little bit out. And we are transferring into the second one here. All right, second one was a little bit cleaner there, but we are transferred. So next we're just going to take sanitizer, airlock, and put it on top of these and wait 2 more weeks.